Shanahan, especially after the collapse that he had in Super Bowl 51 as the play caller for the Atlanta Falcons, and the Patriots go on to make the biggest Super Bowl comeback in the history of the Super Bowl era. But in looking at this game, you could clearly see that Kyle Shanahan didn't trust Jimmy Garoppolo. That drive right before halftime, I mean, there was an opportunity for him to use 1 of 3 timeouts, not to let Kansas City run time off of the clock when they were getting ready to punt. He elects not to do it. You could see John Lynch in the booth upstairs trying to signal timeout, and the fact that he didn't get it done, I think that just shows that Kyle Shanahan had no visions of his quarterback trying to lead a scoring drive before the half. Even when they got the ball, he decided that he was going to run it. Now, they did have an opportunity for a chunk play to throw to George Kittle, but they ended up getting called for OPI because he extended with his arm.
And that even only happened because the Chiefs used a timeout.
That happened because the Chiefs used a timeout.
They were going to just run the clock down and take it into halftime if the Chiefs don't use a timeout.
100%. But I think in that moment you saw that Kyle Shanahan clearly doesn't trust Jimmy Garoppolo, and I think he's justified just based on the last drive that they had an opportunity to actually get back in the game. I mean, you're down 4, you get the ball back with 2:44. You end up getting the ball at midfield with 1:49 left. And then you have a sequence of plays. He throws an incompletion to Deebo Samuel. He has the one that's blocked down at the line of scrimmage by Chris Jones. Then he gets pressured on a blitz from Steve Spagnuolo in that Chiefs defense, throws it up to Emmanuel Sanders. And to me, that was the game. That was the throw that we're waiting to see if Jimmy Garoppolo could make under duress in the big moment.
It's got him.
And he's got him wide open. He's got to step on those defenders, and he misses that throw. And then the next play, he takes a sack. It was a 4th down, which is inexcusable. And then you have a turnover on downs, and then Kansas City ends up scoring while they're trying to run out the clock. But to me, that was the moment that we were waiting on. That was the reason why Nick and I have been skeptical of the 49ers all season long. We didn't know that in the biggest moments whether or not Jimmy Garoppolo could deliver. And the whole story the entire week leading up to the Super Bowl was Jimmy Garoppolo is underrated as a quarterback. He's shown that he can come from behind. He got the highest QBR. He's got the highest QBR in the 4th quarter when trailing. All of that stuff,
it's all nonsense.
We knew it was all eyewash. We knew it was all irrelevant because at the biggest stage the game has to offer, he could not deliver.
And so to your point, Canty, is Kyle Shanahan to blame for the Niners Super Bowl loss? Jimmy Garoppolo is more to blame. Right? So, and just like the Falcons game, you can say, well, if this player picks up a block, if Matt Ryan doesn't fumble the ball, if there's these different things where players could have pulled Kyle Shanahan out of the fire, they didn't. I understand that. So he's not fully to blame. But there are 2 moments in this game that Kyle Shanahan failed his team. One you talked about. The end of the first half was a coaching travesty because the message it sends to every unit on your team is I don't trust you. It's not just the quarterback. If you call timeout with 1:40 left in the first half, you'll have 2 timeouts with the ball. If you just don't trust your quarterback, you can run the football. You have 2 timeouts, 1:40, might be able to get in field goal range. Probably not going to go the length of the field running the ball, but you can run the ball. And if the answer is, well, I don't want to run it because we might then have to punt the ball back to Kansas City, well, now the signal you're saying is, in addition to not trusting the quarterback, because I'm not calling timeout to let them throw it, not trusting the running game to pick up the yards, because I'm not calling timeout to let them run it, I also don't trust my defense to hold up if we do have to punt with 1 minute left, with Kansas City having a timeout or 2 in their pocket to stop them. That was indefensible. And I'm glad we got the John Lynch video, because now the Niners can't run from it. That was coaching malpractice. And then there was one moment in the second half that, much like, despite all the things that happened in the Atlanta Super Bowl, there's one play you circle and say, if you call the right play there, you win. After the Julio Jones catch on the sideline, you're up 8, you're inside the New England 25, there's inside of 4 minutes left, it's 2nd and 11. If you just run the football, you kick a field goal and you win the game. Instead, he called a pass play, ended disastrously. For the Niners in this game, it was after the Tyreek Hill 44-yard play when the Chiefs cut it to 20-17. In that situation, it is 2nd and 5. The Niners are up 3. They've just gotten 5 yards on 1st down. There's around 5 minutes left, and he calls a Jimmy Garoppolo pass play. And this happens, which then leads to a Jimmy Garoppolo pass play the next down, which also goes incomplete. As someone who was rooting incredibly hard for the Chiefs, I was begging, call a pass play. Don't continue to run it. You had just gotten 5 yards on first down. You have the lead in the fourth quarter. And now what Kyle Shanahan has to own is this. In Super Bowl history, there's only been one comeback of greater than 10 points. He was the offensive coordinator for it. There's been there's been now 4 comebacks of exactly 10 points. He was the head coach for one of them. So the single biggest Super Bowl collapse and the next biggest Super Bowl collapse, he was the play caller for both of them.
Canty, let me ask you a question. Is there anything to the fact that Kyle Shanahan was just crushed for being too aggressive in that Super Bowl when he lost to the Patriots? Way too aggressive instead of holding on to that lead. That he'd listened to so much of that leading up to this that maybe he flipped the page a little bit and was almost too conservative, at least at the end of the first half, saying, I'm not going to do what I did that time. I just want to hold on, go into halftime tied at 10. Yeah,
well, you have to go out there and win the Super Bowl. You can't try to avoid losing the Super Bowl. So to me, that give-up drive at the end of the first half was one of those things that you look at it and you say that was a wasted possession. And I don't know that you can afford to waste possessions in the biggest game because there is no game next week. This is it. It's all over with. So, I mean, if you have confidence in your team, more importantly, if you have confidence in your quarterback, I think you're a little bit more aggressive. But to your point, maybe Kyle Shanahan overcorrected the driver just a little bit. Maybe he has that in the back of his mind and he says, you know what, I want to be a little more conservative because I was criticized for being too aggressive in Super Bowl 51.
But then in the fourth quarter, he made the exact same mistakes he made in Super Bowl 51. They ran 13 plays in the second half with the lead. They passed on 9 of them. You have 2nd and 5 with the lead. You are 6 first downs away. That's the math. 6 first downs away from being able to take knees. Probably not going to get 6 first downs. You get a touchdown, the game's over anyway. You get a field goal with if you take time off the clock. Chiefs then have to drive the field. You cannot call a pass play on 2nd and 5 when you've just run for 5 yards with Jimmy Garoppolo as your quarterback. You can't do it because those are the things that happens. Like, these are the singular moments. And you do wonder a bit, that monkey is now off Andy Reid's back, right? The best offensive mind in football, but can't get it done in a big game. I wonder who can take that title. The best offensive mind in football, but game management stuff into games, neck gets a little tight. The collar gets a little tight. It's what it felt like to me yesterday, and I wonder what John Lynch is thinking this weekend, or this morning. Personally, probably feels like got snubbed on the Hall of Fame. Then he's begging his coach to call timeout. He doesn't do it. They can't hold on to a 10-point fourth quarter lead.
Listen, if Shanahan really doesn't trust his quarterback, they got problems because he signed a